Hello everyone. Alright, so I've been super busy for a little bit. I went to Disney on vacation the first week of March, and after we got back from there, I've basically been working 30 hours a week every week, as well as doing 5 classes for school, so I've had very little time to do any of these videos here. So, I mean, we knocked out a couple Goosebumps reviews here and there, but there's still, have not really had much time to do the YouTube stuff. As a result, I've fallen behind on my Fight Club 2 comic book reviews. And it just so happens that we've gotten toward the end. We're in April right now. The last issue, issue 10, came out in March, but I still have not read or reviewed the previous issue from February, issue 9, and there was no issue released in January. So the last issue that came out, issue 8, was in December, January was skipped, and then February, and end of March, and now this is it. This is the end of the story, and a hardcover trade paperback will be out in May, I believe. So, I'm going to read and review, and we'll see how this whole story, this whole Fight Club sequel turns out. Issue 9, I got this cover. I liked tattooed Suicide Girl Marla here with the child soldiers in the background, and then those soldiers are lifting up narrator's son apparently at this end here. So I'm going to read them both, and then I'll give a encapsulated review of these issues and Fight Club 2 in general. Okay, just so we're all up to date, I even needed this time because it's been a few months since I read issue 8. Marla's ragtag army of sick children descend on the castle where her son is being held. Tyler has a castle. The book's author, Chuck Palahniuk, breaking the fourth wall again, frets over the task of resolving a character, Tyler, who's so beloved by readers. In a dream, Sebastian witnesses every past generation of his family, as each has been destroyed in order to leave him despondent and isolated for Tyler's benefit, because Tyler can jump from body to body. And when Marla arrives at the castle to rescue Junior, she and her sidekick are taken prisoner. So that's where we left off before issue 9. Alright. Alright, this is going to take a little discussion. First of all, issue 9. Some interesting things happen in issue 9. We finally get all of the main characters in one setting. I guess Tyler's psychiatrist did not die in the last one. I thought he blew up in the car, but he's in this one, and he wants Tyler to possess him, and then Tyler does, and shoots him in the head. So I guess Tyler doesn't have to just jump through the same bloodline, he can also jump into other bodies now, right? Sure. And there's some good moments, though, with Tyler in narrator's son, and then narrator basically and his son in a fight is kind of a cool moment. Marla trying to figure out if narrator or Tyler's in control by making narrator kiss her, because she can tell that way. But basically, they all end up in the same place in this Tyler Castle thing. We find out that Tyler has been sort of a huge whore to get people's loyalty through sex, including Angel Face. So Tyler's bi. And yeah, apparently Tyler now has all of his the world's great works of art in the basement of this castle, and all of his followers. It's not quite clear, because supposedly his followers are the people of Project Mayhem and stuff, but the people who are in the basement of this castle are not the members of Project Mayhem, it doesn't look like, or Fight Club. They're like the world's elites, sort of like the Ayn Rand, the people who would follow John Galt. So you have all the rich people, and then Tyler makes a speech about parasites. But then he's talking about nuclear bombs exploding on out on the surface, but then the ceiling starts cracking and sand comes in. So it's not quite clear what is going on. Is Tyler killing everyone on the surface, but then specifically burying the bourgeoisie to death? Or is he lying about the nuclear weapons and is killing the bourgeoisie and the world's history? Or is he... Yeah, the story's not quite clear as far as what's actually happening at this point. But it does kind of have some sort of interesting stuff. I mean, the problem with Fight Club 2 as a whole has been that the story and the themes that Palahniuk is dealing with are not the most interesting, but there are great moments that we wanted to see in a Fight Club sequel interspersed throughout the rest of it, so it's been sort of a mixed bag in that one. But don't worry, because issue 10 kind of throws all of that out the window. Issue 10 is everything I've disliked about Fight Club 2. It is a complete breaking of the fourth wall, and it ends up being Chuck Palahniuk's, I guess, sort of rant against Fight Club fandom. Because, here's the thing. As far as Chuck Palahniuk's writing career has gone, we're right now in what I would sort of dub Phase 2. Where basically you had the basic phases of... Phase 1 was basically most of the books that he's written so far, where he's been experimenting with different themes and his usual stuff that he's interested in, and all that fun stuff. And then something changed. And that thing changed around his book Doomed, which was his first sequel, and that was a sequel to Damned. And Chuck forever had said he wasn't going to do sequels, that he had too many new ideas and everything. And I didn't like Doomed for the first 100 pages until I finally realized what he was doing. And Doomed was basically Chuck Palahniuk satirizing his own style to see if his fan base would get it. And once I understood what he was doing, I then could sort of appreciate it. And then Phase 2 sort of began when he wrote Beautiful You. You know, he's abandoning minimalism, he's writing in the third person now, he's trying new things. He's doing a sequel to Fight Club in comic book form, for instance. So now he's breaking out of the author he was, and he's doing this new form. So here's the thing. Fight Club was a book, it then became a movie. The movie is far more well-known and popular than the book. And it's also different in some ways. So, issue 10 starts out, the entire world's been blown up, and then Chuck is sitting at a table with his author friends and is like, ah, ta-da, and they're complaining, like, you killed the dog, or that's just an Atlas Shrugged ripoff, or that's full of Deus Ex Machinas and all that stuff. And then all the Fight Club fans come with their issue 10 in nooses to Chuck's home ready to hang him, which, alright, was funny. And Chuck is basically sort of about, the ending of the book is different. It had a different message, which was basically about victims and victimizers. That's not, I think that's more of a minimal message and not the overarching message of the book Fight Club, but whatever. That's the one he's chosen because that's one of the messages from the book that did not translate into the movie all that much. So he talks about that, and I think Chuck is sort of upset a little bit at Fight Club fandom for being so pro-Tyler. Like, I remember I was on a message board about the Fight Club film, and I was like, you know, the weird thing is that people seem to not realize that Tyler's the villain of that movie. And someone replied under me, says you. And it's sort of, I think the idea is, you know, Tyler is not a good person. Yeah, he does have some good points in his anti-capitalist or anti-corporate message and everything, and some, but not all of his nihilist stuff. But he then becomes a fascist, brainwashing cult leader who is a hypocrite and setting up his own franchises and doing the very same corporate model that the people he claims not liked to do. So he's not a good person, but the Fight Club fandom has sort of embraced Tyler and hasn't gotten that, no, you idiots, some of his message is good, but Tyler's not a good person. He's not the hero of Fight Club. So I think Fight Club 2 in general has been sort of perhaps leading up to Palahniuk trying to put the genie back in the bottle of creating a very charismatic but evil character and saying, no, he's a horrible person and he needs to die. And the only way he can think of for him to die is to kill everyone else on the planet so there's no one else for Tyler to jump into, I guess. I don't know. So then it goes off and, like, the fans, like, create their own ending, and they take Chuck along, and they, like, open a boulder, and all of the people who are buried alive, because I guess they've been buried, but the world has not now, I'm not sure. So, yeah, and they end up pulling out all the people from Tyler's basement who were there, and they're all alive now, and all that stuff. And then, Chuck, like, goes off in a corner away from the fans and the characters that he's created, and he's off with Tyler. And he tells Tyler, it's like, hey, remember that line from the book that's not in the movie about Marla saying, I want to have your abortion? Well, Marla ends up pregnant from Tyler and has an abortion. And Tyler's upset, and then he kills Chuck Palahniuk. And then it's like, well, now he's Chuck Palahniuk. He's taken over that body, and he's going to make Tyler have a kid, and that's how it ends. Yeah, alright. So it's kind of Chuck Palahniuk going into his own narcissistic rabbit hole to to express his anger at the Fight Club fans who have not gotten or understood his work. So, yeah. It's very self-absorbed and narcissistic as far as an ending to his work goes, but whatever. It is funny though. Issue 10, while being that, it is funny. I like people quoting Chuck's lines back to him in futility and all that stuff. So it's, it has its points, but yeah, this not only is this not the ending the Fight Club fans wanted, this isn't the sequel we wanted, but I guess Chuck is basically saying, well, this is my creation, you're not entitled to the sequel you wanted, you weren't even going to get a sequel. This is the sequel I've given you, now suck it up, you assholes. So, point taken. Much like, this isn't George Lucas doing the Star Wars prequels, but creators do have a certain right over the things they've created, even if that creation has expanded and become something else with the fandom. But I guess that's a whole other argument about fandom and creators and the sort of war between content providers and the fans. There's always backlash from fans when things don't quite live up, Lost and things like that. So, overall, what is Fight Club 2? Aside from Chuck Palahniuk's fan service / fan hatred toward Fight Club fans. Look, the setup of Fight Club 2 is good. And the basic outline of the story works. As far as, what's the main plot going to be, that kind of thing. I guess the issue is that Chuck Palahniuk is now interested in different types of themes and different types of issues which no longer resonate with me. Because, Fight Club, I read Fight Club the book when I was 15, and I saw the movie when I was 16. And at that time in my life, and for a large part of the 20s, that book and that movie resonated with me on a very personal level. I also have a Fight Club tattoo. He sort of makes fun of Fight Club fans who have gotten quotes and stuff tattooed on them, but yeah, I have a tattoo of the bar on my back. But it did connect with me, and it did do a lot to shape my personality and my politics and things like that. And while I think I've sort of grown up beyond the Tyler's nihilism, what's stuck with me is sort of the questions that book and that film drew up about gender issues and its anti-corporatist politics, and also kind of how much the world, and especially sort of the American political scene, has changed. When Tyler says we have no Great War, no Great Depression, well, since then we've had this war on terror, and we've had the recession, so in a way our generation got the things that Tyler was saying we did not have, so it's a little different. And also, it's not in the book, but in the movie, those buildings exploding, then 9/11 happened, and now we think more 9/11 and not so much Weather Underground, which I think was more what Chuck was going to as far as, terrorist explosions for a political purpose that don't kill anybody. But anyway, so I sort of moved beyond that a little bit, but I still have a connection with that. And now Palahniuk, of course, has also moved beyond where he was. He's written many other books since he wrote Fight Club. There's been another movie adaptation of a different book, Choke. And so the things have moved on for him, and perhaps he feels a bit shackled to the legacy of Fight Club because even though it's the first book of his that was published, not written, Invisible Monsters he wrote first, because it was the one that was published, he's so far beyond that, but the fan base is still very much involved with that. It's still very much alive, and a lot of that is because of the film, which he had, not as much control over as the book. So I sort of understand that he's dealing with different issues that are personal to him. And of course, Fight Club, the book, was very personal to him. A lot of the characters were based on people he knew, and a lot of the little vignettes in the book are based on anecdotes that him or his friends lived through. Project Mayhem is very much influenced by the Cacophony Society that he's a member about, and things like that. So, I guess just as the fans who enjoyed Fight Club at a certain time and have then grown up, have moved on in the things they're interested in, Palahniuk has also grown up and is interested in different things, in different styles, in different ways of communicating with fandom, and just different themes about art and artists and philosophy and what he's interested in. And I guess, even though I've moved on and am not tied to Fight Club 1 in the same way, I guess I was still hoping that Fight Club 2 as a sequel would expand on the themes given the events of the past. Well, Fight Club, the movie, came out in 1999, the book I believe was published in 1996, so it's been 20 years since Fight Club, the book, was published. So of the events of the past 20 years, I felt that Fight Club should have perhaps reflected the world now as much as Fight Club of 1996 reflected the United States under, 1996, Bill Clinton presidency, no real war except for, the Bosnian intervention, and an economy that was doing fairly well, tech bubble all aside. But this isn't really as political or even as politically philosophical as I was wanting it to. It's really more about art and artist and that sort of thing. So in a sense, Chuck has not made the book reflect society. Chuck has made Fight Club 2 reflect his own mindscape and sort of the mindset that he's in. So I guess he made Fight Club not really for as social or political commentary. He made Fight Club 2 as him fleshing out his own legacy and his own internal contradictions and dialectic. And while that might be great for him, as someone who is not Chuck Palahniuk reading it, it's not as interesting. But, as still a writer and as still an entertainer, there is some great things in Fight Club 2. There's, where the story has gone so far as where narrator is, where Marla is as a person, following up on all of these old characters as if they were old friends. Interesting little moments, like narrator having to fight his son and things like that. There's great moments here and there speckled, but because Chuck is more concerned with other things, those are few and far between to him trying to go off about, Tyler being a thought meme and and all of this stuff. So it's not a bad sequel, but it falls flat. It's not. It's the sequel that Chuck Palahniuk probably needed to write for himself, but it's not the sequel that fans wanted. It's certainly not the sequel I wanted, and I think the ending in Fight Club 10 with the fans coming for him, he knows that. I think he also does not care. I think it's sort of as long as you've laughed and had a good time while reading it, and I have, then that's all he owes us, and perhaps, he doesn't actually owe us anything. So, but because of the way this ends, not that we're ever going to get a Fight Club 2 movie anyway, but we're definitely not, and I think as far as the work of Palahniuk goes, Fight Club 2 is not the new Fight Club. Fight Club 2 is going to be a little footnote in his career. Most of the fans of Fight Club the book might read it because they're actual hardcore Palahniuk and Fight Club fans, but the movie people, they might not even stumble upon this, and they're certainly not going to like it. There's even one moment in Fight Club 10 where one woman is like, wait, Fight Club was a book, and then Chuck's got to, pinch his nose and go like, ah. I'm sure that kills him when he hears that, but I hear that a lot too. I didn't even know it was a book, and then you want to hit them as hard as you can. So, I would say Fight Club 2 is worth reading only for the hardest of hardcore Fight Club fans. If you just like the movie, if that's it, then it's not for you. This is for people who have read the book multiple times, have seen the movie multiple times, have read all of Palahniuk's other stuff. That is who this is for. This is for hardcore, casual fans need not apply. I'm not gonna give it a letter grade. I normally give letter grades to movies when I write reviews and the Goosebumps books and all this stuff, but I'm a bit too conflicted right now as far as the positive and negative feelings I have toward it. And there were a couple completely dead issues as well, but I'm gonna probably have to sit with it for a while and decide, but we got the sequel we never thought we'd get, and if it wasn't the sequel we wanted, then, be careful what you wish for, I guess. Oh well. Uh, Polinick, I think, can finally close the door on Fight Club. I think it's done now. But who knows? I mean, if Fincher and everyone else decided to make a Fight Club sequel, they could basically take the bare bones of the comic, but they'd have to change a lot more than they actually changed from the original novel to the film. Anyway, I'm done rambling. If you want to read it for yourself, the individual issues, I believe, are still for sale, and the trade paperback will be coming out in about a month. And then you can just read it all through as one collected story, not spread out among months, and maybe reading it over the course of an afternoon or 2 hours or whatever, it might feel better. I don't know. So I would rate myself as moderately disappointed.